we're not going to be racist within humans, and why should humankind be speciest? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a speciest. I'm in favor of the human race. I mean, there's no other race for us to talk to if you put it that way. Human race is the only race, and we can't be egalitarian and equal with animals, because the minute that we give them an inch, they'll take a mile, you know? Oh my God, speciesism. Now, Orwell, quote, abhorred cruelty to dumb creatures, but found vegetarianism more than mildly ridiculous. He didn't think you should be cruel, but eating meat was obvious and necessary. Now, this reminds me of, I believe it was Herbert Spencer, who said, I was vegetarian for a while, but I had to leave off that habit because I lost vigor. I had no vigor while I was vegetarian. And then later, going back over my writings, I found that my writing lacked vigor, and I had to rewrite most of what I had written during my vegetarian state. So, there's that. And you know I've got the joke about the vegan. Orwell was very fond of animals, but generally represented fanatical pet owners, and I'm putting those quotes in there. Hitchens just has it as a regular phrase. He represented fanatical pet owners as somewhat contemptible. What is a fanatical pet owner? There's normal pet owners and there's fanatical ones, right? What do the fanatical ones do? Send their cats and dogs on bombing missions? I mean, what the hell? What is a fanatical pet owner? He had a dog named Marks, but he kept him engaged in a working farm. He adored fishing, but it's impossible to imagine him bothering to keep a fish in a bowl. Right, I can sort of imagine it. Why is that impossible to imagine? Anyways, he loved the landscape, but didn't want it depopulated. Depopulated of humans or of other stuff? As it had been in English history, to make room for sheep or pheasants or deer. The parts of creation have their place, but their place is within a whole. Fine. Thus, the scheme of Animal Farm owes both its depth and its simplicity to the fact that all animals are not the same. What a ridiculous statement. Animal Farm owes its depth and simplicity to the fact that all animals are not the same. I don't know. Whatever. You can work with that if you want. Not everything Hitchens has in his books is worth the time. And I'm skipping a lot of stuff that's completely not worth the time. And it talks about how pigs are despised by Orwell and are given high marks for intelligence, while dogs, which are admired by Orwell, are exploited and they mutate into enforcers, right? Dogs mutate into just the KGB type force. The enforcers of everything because of their famous quality of loyalty. Alright, skipping a page, Jean-Paul Sartre was regarded with great suspicion by Orwell. Any of you read Sartre, or if you have heard of him, now you know that George Orwell was very suspicious of him. We don't need anything else they say on that page. Next page. And I just write my note out to the side here. Ugh. We now have a much better idea of our own relationship with and dependence on the natural order. The vandalizing of the rainforests and the unhealthy exploitation of farm animals with their awful consequences for humans are at the center, blah, blah, blah. This is Hitchens, Christopher Hitchens. Now, why are they vandalizing the rainforest? Let's just stop on that just for a minute, because I hear about it too often and I am sick of hearing about it. Why are they vandalizing the rainforest, as he says? Now, in fact, they're not vandalizing it. That would mean to destroy it without purpose, without meaning. They're not actually vandalizing, and it means to destroy something that's not yours. What they're doing is they are farming it, okay? They burn off large patch of jungle, they farm it for a few years. When the soil goes bad, they move on. They go to the next section of jungle, burn it down. Now they leave behind them not forest, but depopulated forest is the term, which in 10 or 20 years is going to be back where it was, and they'll be able to chop it down again. And so it's not that long term of a disaster, and they just fall apart. Oh my God, so much soil is lost, and there's wind erosion, and there's erosion when it rains because there's no plants to hold the soil down. after the farming's done. God, you know. But the fact is, there's just so much moisture, there's so much rain in these areas, that if you leave that land alone for 5 or 10 years, it'll be back to normal. Now, we don't have this problem in America, so this whole issue would be completely moot. We wouldn't even be discussing this issue if there were phosphate fertilizers and machinery available to these people that are burning down their jungle. Why not bring in phosphate fertilizer and machinery? They could farm the same land as we do in America now for 100 years straight. Just one patch of soil never ever wears out. You gotta turn it over and maybe even let it sit fallow for a year on extraordinary occasions, every 10 years or something. But it's not like the farming they're doing for a year or 2 or 3 years and then they have to abandon it for new land. Everybody's worried about the rainforest. Well, let's talk about getting economic freedom down there for those farmers so they can become more productive and they can afford machinery and fertilizer. That's what we need to be talking about. Now we skip an amazing 25 pages with nothing that I was able to find of any use in there. And we're at page 150. Now Orwell, says Hitchens, took the gloomily anti-Malthusian view. Now Malthus said that we're outgrowing our resources. People are reproducing so fast, and resources are only reproducing in a 1, 2, 3, 4, and populations 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, whatever. But so Orwell took the anti-Malthusian view that humanity was failing to reproduce itself with enough speed or vigor. Now we went from 1 billion people when Orwell died to 6 billion in 50 years. So he was wrong about humanity as a whole, but he's certainly right about the British. As Mark Stein, S-T-E-Y-N, will tell you, who wrote a book called America Alone, the British have been importing Arabs and Muslims and immigrants from all over the place, from wherever they can get them, to have the children that the British couldn't be bothered having. As the British get older, they need more and more health care, and they need taxpayers. But the funny thing is, a lot of the people that immigrate there just get on welfare and become a drain on the economy. Is it any wonder they're all trying to get to America? But yeah, Orwell said the British aren't producing fast enough, aren't reproducing fast enough, and Mark Stein's saying it today. It's still going on. It's at a very advanced, very late stage. Look, it might be over for the British. They might be done. Who says that they get to go on forever and ever? The Greeks had their day and were outdone finally, not by the Persians, but by the Romans. And the Romans had their day. Look, I'm sorry, the British day is gone. Yeah, Mark Stein probably has come to accept that. He probably has. I don't know. He thinks my interpretation of Mark Stein is that he wants the British to start having babies as soon as possible, and Western civilization in general. To hell with the idea that the world's overpopulated. Certain regions are extremely underpopulated by certain people, according to him. But Britain will be in the orbit of Muslim countries in 10 years, perhaps, you know. Alright, now, completely unrelated, chapter break or section break or whatever, a few pages down. Quote, this is about epistemology and thinking and stuff. In situations where the results of certain actions are clear even to a deceiver, blah blah blah, it goes on. So let's think about that. Let's get that thought in our mind. A situation where the result of an action is clear even to a self-deceiver, someone who deceives themselves, and there's a situation where their actions are clear even to them. Like if they pull this lever, they're going to die or something. Well, I just wrote out to the side, by definition, nothing is clear to a self-deceiver. And there are people who deceive themselves and end up dying as a result. And you say, well, the situation could be such that it would force clarity on them because it's a life and death situation. It would be the last decision they ever make if they evade it, and they would snap out of it and they wouldn't deceive themselves about it. Don't be so sure. Now he continues just a bit. The whole difficulty is to decide where each person stands, and one has to treat each case individually. True.